Okay. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Special meeting this evening to identify those applicants for the school board position vacated by Steve Bowerman that we will be interviewing on Thursday night. So that doesn't go off. We have Larry Cappigat and Chad Tuttle with absences this evening. So first off, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Motion by Dawn,
Support that.
support by Mark. Any questions or comments on the agenda? I'm going to kind of give an overview of our process here in a moment, but any questions, clarifications? Okay. First up, before we jump into the board candidate selection process, we had no one to speak tonight. Robin, is that correct? Okay. So we'll move on past recognition of visitors and move to board candidate selection process. So as the board knows, but for the benefit of those here this evening, we had 14 individuals submit applications or submit interest for the board position vacated by Steve Bowerman. And if you think about 14 individuals, that interviews ranging from a half an hour to an hour, that can be a lot of time on interviews, as you can imagine. So it is our practice, it has been our practice as a board, and in most boards, when they're dealing with a large number of applicants, to vet those applicants and then to identify those that we will go forward with as part of the interviewing process. And that's what our goal is here this evening. So the board has received, including the folks that aren't here, have received the application letters and in some cases resumes from those folks who applied for the board position. They've had a chance to read those and review them over the past number of days. The board was asked to kind of make their selections or identify their selections coming into the meeting this evening. Now we'll probably have some dialogue around questions that the board may have amongst each other and clarifications and criteria and so forth. So we'll have that dialogue first, and then I'll just go up to the board and I'll just start indicating those that we wish to interview. A good target number to think for is about 6. Now we're not held hard and fast to that. Could be a little more, could be a little less, but 6 is a good number to think about for a 3.5 hours of interviews on Thursday night. We, as we're going through the dialogue, we will be using numbers instead of names to identify the board members, the applicants. All the board members have a list of names and then a number associated. And then once we've decided on those we will be interviewing, then we'll read the names out for those that we'll be revisiting on Thursday evening. Anything else relative to the process or the procedure, anyone that, somebody asked me on the way in, Mr. Chansky, I think, around, we do have 3 applicants who are also running in the November election. And so I actually had a number of folks raise the question, well, how does that work out if you've got somebody applying for the open position and running? First of all, can they do that? And yes, they can do that. State law fully allows for that. And if an applicant were to be selected for the open position to replace Steve Bowerman, and that person were to receive enough votes to get an open board seat in November, then that person would have to choose which position they're going to take, the vacated position or the open seat. That person has to choose one or the other. And then the board, depending on which position they take, the board will then come back and we will go through this process again to either fill the vacated position again, or we will fill the open seat that was left vacated because the person took the vacated position. So we do have their name will remain on the ballot in November. It doesn't come off. Again, we do have a clear process for how that occurs moving forward. And my own personal opinion, again, this is my personal opinion. Other board members may have other thoughts, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But my personal opinion is our job this evening is to select who we believe the right candidates are to go through the interview process, regardless of whether they're on the November ballot or not. That'll work itself out. We've got the task in front of us is to backfill for Mr. Bowerman. So, any questions or anything, board, on that process? procedure? No? Okay. Okay, again, we do have two folks that are with us tonight, Larry Kappinger, Chad Tuttle. Both have given me their preferred interview candidates, and so I have those and the rationale for why they wanted to go forward in that direction. So I'll be sharing that as well. But with that, then, what I'd like to do is just, you want to say something? I want to just open it up and see before I go up to the board and just saying, okay, those interested in interviewing number 1, 2, 3, just kind of going down the list up there. I want to open up for any dialogue and thoughts amongst the board before we go into the tallying process. So, thoughts, dialogue, questions? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Water?
I'm glad an engineer is figuring out how we're going to tally.
Apologize, the board's a little bit farther up here, but I'll try and stay clear as best I can so folks can see it. Okay. Okay, so these are from myself and Larry Kappinger and Chad Tuttle. So for candidate number 1, candidate number 1, we had 3 yes. Yes means yes for interview. I'll go down, I'll pause candidate by candidate. We'll tally them up that way as opposed to me putting them up. So others for candidate number 1. Okay, there's a 4th. Others for candidate number 1. Okay. Candidate number 2, there were 2. Others for candidate number 2. Okay, another one. Candidate number 3.
How many are we voting for?
Yeah.
Okay, good question. So what we will do is we'll target your top 6 that you'd like to interview.
Okay.
Again, if somebody's like, well, I got a number, I mean, we'll hash out the final number at the end here, but target your top 6. I'd like to interview these 6. Okay, good question. Thanks, Mark. Candidate number 3. I had, for candidate number 3, I had 1, 2, 3. Anyone else for candidate number 3? 4, 5. Okay. There's 2 more. Okay, candidate number 4. Anyone? Okay, candidate number 5. Okay, that's 1. And then there were 2 more.
Wrong line, Ken. Oh.
Thank you. Candidate number 4 was none. I'll make sure I note that. Candidate number 5 was 2. Was there anyone else for candidate number 5? 3. Thank you for catching me on that. Candidate number 6. Anyone? Okay. Candidate number 7. Anyone? Okay, and there were 2 more. I'm glad you're all here. Okay, candidate number 7, Barb, yep. And then there were 2 more. Okay, candidate number 8, anyone? 1, 2. Candidate number 9, anyone? 1. Candidate number 10. Candidate number 10, anyone? Yes. 1, okay. And there were 2 more on here, so 3. Candidate number 11, anyone? 1, 2, 3, okay.
And I'm sorry, I missed mine on number 9.
On number 9?
Yes,
So you have another one there?
yes.
Okay. Candidate number 12. Number 12. 1, 2, and we had a 3rd one as well. Candidate number 13. Anyone? 1. Number 14. 1, 2. Okay. Okay, and we tally those up. There's 4, and 3, and 5, and 0, 3, 0, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 1, and 2. So to start off with, if we think about going with 6, it would be candidate 3, candidate 1, and we have a number of 3s in here, okay, so we'll have to work through that. 3, 3, 3, 3.
Number 5.
Okay, yep. 3. Okay, so we have 2, and then we have a number of 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3s. So altogether right now we have 8 candidates. So board, we can say we're going to go with those 8 candidates, or we can say we'd like to, which is, again will be 4+ hours of interviews on Thursday night, or we can say, hey, we would like to whittle this down a little bit further and get to 6. I'm open to, I'd like some discussion and dialogue around that, please. Give me a minute to think about that while I do a drink.
I'm going to keep it 8, it's not too bad, so
Okay.
only 1 more hour.
Okay. Other thoughts? Anybody opposed to going with 8 as opposed to 6? Okay. Can I count right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So
Minus any?
I
Yes.
I appreciate that it makes it easier for us tonight. If we have 8, and we have a half hour for each person,
Mhm.
and we have dialogue,
Mhm.
can we do that all in one night?
Fair question.
Are there other factors we want to look at or discuss about any of the 3 individuals that might help us to narrow it down while we're here tonight?
Mhm.
Was there, I mean, it's kind of hard without Chad and Larry here to then go beyond what they said in their information. Is there other information that they shared with you that you could share with us that might shed some light on their thought on that?
Larry knew 2 of the candidates that he selected, and knew history, and of course Larry knows lots of people, right? I don't think he had either one of them as a student, but he knew them through sports and other, and so that Ed had worked with them over the years, not worked with them, but participated with them in sports and so forth, and so he knew that weighed heavily into his decision. Another important aspect to Larry was having somebody with a background in education. He felt that was very important, that educational background. As a teacher or as an administrator or something like that, but that was important to him as well. So both his relationships with them and their educational background, those were things important to him. Chad's primary question was around running in November and filling the position here. So basically, Chad said, I walked through the interview, I can't say this regarding Chad. Chad does feel that not all the board, but that a majority of the board, or significant number of the board, how do you want to put it, should have students in the district. Or we need a few more folks on the board that have students in the district. Personally, I feel the same way, in full transparency. Not to say anybody that doesn't have kids in the district can't be a good board member, I'm not saying that, but I do think it's important that we have a mix of a few more folks that have students in the districts. Of course, we talk about, we are looking for demographic balance, north and south, you know, and we always don't want to cluster people on the north end of the district and nobody on the south. We don't have that, but, you know, those things, you know, come to mind. Yeah, so those are some. And again, the rest of, I know my decisions, the educational background, I also thought was a not the only factor, but an important factor. And yeah, so those were kind of, if I summarize Larry and Chad and myself, that's kind of where we're at. But and back to your point about if we do that many interviews, yeah, we have to have time to discuss them as well. Now there's a couple of ways we could tackle that. We could just do the interviews on Friday evening and schedule a Saturday session, you know, and get together and say, okay, it'll be an open meeting again. But a Saturday session and say, okay, let's get together for an hour and let's hammer through the interviews and make a decision there. I don't know if Monday we will really have, I'm kind of looking at Dr. Vanderjack, have bandwidth to do it on Monday with the book review, but maybe we could, you know, do that. And it seems like a lot of maybe heavy discussion for one night, quite frankly, but maybe we could do that. So we don't have to come up with a decision. Our deadline is September 21. September 21, we have got to have a decision, or for the benefit of those in the audience again, by state law, the ISD then assigns a person to fill the board seat. Nobody on this board wants the ISD to fill in the position. Not because that's not a diss against the ISD or negative against them. It's just that we're fully capable as a board of deciding that. And I think we, as one of the largest districts in West Michigan, we can do this. We'll get it done by the 21st. We're not going to let the ISD do it. We have the capability. So I'm open to any of those. A Saturday meeting, trying to squeeze it in on Monday. Again, I'm kind of looking at you going, I don't know if I'd advise Monday.
I would not, but that's not my decision.
Right.
So a question for my colleagues. Obviously, no one knows what numbers correspond with these. There are a couple that I could change to not a yes, if that helps. But I also wonder if some of the not saying yes is because they were people who were already running. And did that factor into your thoughts before Ken explained to us how that process would work?
No, because he sent us an email.
Right, but I'm saying, was your decision affected by whether they're already running or not?
No,
No.
my selection did not have any, that didn't have any influence on my selection.
Okay.
The one thing that you could consider, and just throwing ideas out
Yeah,
there,
please.
there are a different number of votes. I think Mark had asked, how many do we get to vote for?
Mhm.
Some people voted for 8. Some people maybe voted for 3.
I voted for 6. I thought
So-
that was the standard.
So I guess that's, there's not 6.
Larry had 3. Larry said, Ken, here's my 3. And so and that's just where Larry was at, given his health. So that's where he was at, so.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I counted, there was 34 yeses, and there should be 36.
Mhm.
That's
If we all did
Right.
6.
So somebody did 7.
No, Larry only did.
Larry did
Larry
3.
did.
Larry did
But
3.
Someone must have done 7.
correct. That was my point
Yeah.
was, do you relook at, so there's 6 for everybody, 3 for Larry? Or do you look at the 3s and you take your next, if one of those was a yes, do you count it? Does each person get 1 vote? And then you start to see some overlap. Just throwing out another.
So run that again.
So you might say, okay, of the ones that have already been, of the candidate number 1 or number 3, I think that's pretty much decided.
Yep.
Do you take the ones with 3s
Mhm.
and simply count their votes? So if Mark had 2 of the 3s up there, you count 2, and Barb had 1, you redo it only with those.
The 3s.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep, maybe we could do that.
So you remove the 2s basically and the 5s and the 4s and see. Does that help narrow it down? It's a math thing.
I'm just reluctant about not having two board members here for this. I think they cast their votes. I hate to change the parameters of this. I appreciate.
Oh, I
privacy here.
wasn't suggesting you change it. All I'm saying is based on your, like, we already know Chad's and Larry's.
Mhm.
You don't change anything. I'm not suggesting that you change anything other than you then look at.
Go through another vote.
Yeah, so
on-
long
on
as you
the
know
threes.
what Chad's and Larry's were, so
Yeah.
they're fairly represented.
Yeah, and I've got, yeah. And again, Larry said 3, and that's where he was at. He didn't do 6, so. So you want to try that?
I just know when we have meetings that last longer than 3 hours, it's very difficult for
Becomes
all of
a,
us to
becomes
say.
a challenge.
And I'm not sure it's fair to the interviewees either,
Mhm.
if you're the last 2 after you've done 6. We've done that before.
Yeah,
And 6, I think last time we did 5 or 6, and that was a lot.
it's a lot. Okay, well, let's go by this method. And let's see if that shakes out anything. Okay. So first off, we have candidate 2.
So remind me how we're doing
Clarify,
this.
what am I doing?
The only thing you're gonna figure out who had 7 votes.
Um,
Who had voted for 7?
No,
But did somebody vote for 7?
Yeah, they
I
must
think
have,
so.
Yeah.
because there was 34 votes, and if Larry only did 3, there should only be 33 then. I have 6.
I have 6 here too.
Would you tell me what you did for number 12?
number 12,
For, between you and Larry and Chad,
there was 1 vote for number 12.
between the 3 of you?
That's correct. Between the 3 of us, there was 1
Okay,
vote for
and
number
then-
12.
I have a vote.
And then Mark, okay,
And
so,
I voted for 12 too.
okay, so
Mark
there's your
voted for
3,
12.
okay.
What about 11?
I voted for 11.
I voted for 11.
Who voted for 12?
I did.
I did.
Okay, so we did have 3 for 12,
Yes.
okay. For 11,
I
I
did.
voted for 11.
okay, so 1, 2, 2, was there a third for 11? Okay, there wasn't on here, that's, okay, that's the one.
That's the one right there.
I apologize, I'm not doing a good job of board work tonight, sorry.
So change your number to 2.
So then that's a 2. Thank you
Okay, so
for
that's
catching
one
that.
less.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go, what about 10?
And let's, what about 10? I had 2 here,
I voted for 10.
and Mark and 2.
Yeah.
Number 9, there were 2.
Vote 7, so vote
Number 7, there were 2 here. Another? Okay. Number 5, there were 2 here. Number 5, and a third, okay. Number 2. Number 2, there were 2 here,
And then I had 1.
and then a third, okay. Okay, so
Now you're down to 7.
now we're down to 7, yep.
1 less.
It's closer to 6.
We're just closer to
That's the
7.
math.
Pretty close to 6.
Yeah. How do we feel about doing 7?
I feel good about it.
It's better than 8.
Better than 8? How do we feel about doing 7 all on Thursday night? And either making a decision on Thursday night, or if we need to reconvene on probably a Saturday? How do we feel about that? How do we feel about a Saturday, if we need to? If everybody's just hitting the wall on Thursday night and going, I'm done, I'm not gonna make a decision after 3.5 hours of interviews.
What about Friday night?
Or Friday night?
I know it's a football game, but, I mean, I don't know.
Or
if
Friday
you-
night.
It's
Or
Friday.
You know, or like a Friday afternoon, like a 5 o'clock Friday afternoon
Right.
sort of meeting. Would that be, again, if we can do it Thursday night, we'll
Right.
pound through, but I'm just want to plan B in case we all feel like we're hitting the wall.
I guess we need to check with Chad and Larry for sure.
And I can check with, I can check with Chad and Larry. Does that sound
Sure.
Like a plan?
Can I make another possible recommendation for the sake of the candidates?
Yes.
So there's a potential you could do 20-minute interviews and then do a follow-up with your final two.
That's it.
So that it's fair to the candidates, of
Sure.
not having you burned out. It'd still be a long day, but then you'd be fresh on your second. Kind of like a screening interview and then a regular interview. You get it. I mean, we do that a lot with our administrative candidates and teaching candidates, just because of, quite frankly, interview exhaustion for the panel.
So say that again?
So you would interview all 7,
Okay.
maybe 20-minute
Okay.
interviews, maybe even 25. I know 5 minutes doesn't seem like a big deal, but it adds up when you're doing 7 of them. Saves you a half hour, 45 minutes-ish. And then you come back, and if you have 3 that you want to bring back for a final interview Friday afternoon or Saturday morning or Monday morning, whenever,
Mhm.
then you're fresh, right? And you're truly giving them the time they deserve.
We do have to post notice of meeting 18 hours before the meeting. though.
Right.
Okay.
And we're assuming the candidates are available for these interview times. We need to check with them as well.
That will cut down on the interviews. We found that out when we interviewed
No, that's,
candidates. They don't show it.
we're assuming, we're kind of assuming that right now, aren't you? Yeah. What about the idea of, and if you want to sleep on that and get back to me, drop me a note tomorrow, I'll drop the whole board a note. I kind of like the 20 minutes and then a 10-minute dialogue for the final 3. I mean, we have a little time. We can make that decision by the end of the day tomorrow, too. Oh, that sound good?
And we open.
Okay. Dawn? Okay, and I'll run that by Chad and Larry and get their alignment. Okay, so we have 7 candidates. Yep, 7. Any other, before I announce the candidates that we will be interviewing, any final questions, thoughts, comments? I want to make sure the board has a chance to speak to anything before we share the names. And Robin, you've got all this, right? So, okay, anything else, board? Okay. I'm just mention Dawn Wright and, okay, nothing else? Okay, then we'll go ahead. So the candidates, candidate number 1 is,
Can I,
yes, please.
do you want to announce the candidates or just list the 7 people?
The 7 we're interviewing, correct?
Yeah, good
Just
point.
in alphabetical order.
So let me just make sure I got,
Yeah, just give the names in alphabetical order.
Yep.
They don't need a number. What was that?
I said, just give the names in alphabetical order. Would be the best thing to do. I think.
I'm sorry, so they're gonna
Just give the names in alphabetical order.
yeah. So in alphabetical order, that will be Tiffany Burks and John DeCook and Andrew DeWitt and Marshall Durham and April Hawkins and Tani Mitchell. And the last should be Tony Skolton. Okay, so I can share those one more time. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7. So again, that's Tiffany Burks, in alphabetical order, Tiffany Burks, John DeCock, Andrew DeWitt, Marshall Durham, April Hawkins, Tani Mitchell, and Tony Skolton. Okay.
Would you like Robin to reach out to the candidates to schedule the interviews?
When?
Once you know the times? Once you
Yes,
figure
yes,
out if
Robin,
they're
if you could
30
reach out,
minutes or
yes,
20
I'm sorry, yeah, if you could reach out to them now and see if we can, that'd be great. Okay. And again, let me know, from a time standpoint, that 20-minute versus a half-hour interview is kind of important to know. Is there a preference, board, on that? Like, just so Robin can do the planning appropriately?
Were you going to say something?
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna recommend 20 minutes.
Okay.
I
With a
concur.
follow-up with the final three?
And
Okay.
I think all the candidates have provided us with either a lengthy letter or resume, correct? So then I would be very comfortable with 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, well, that's good. Okay, so we'll do that, 20 minutes.
So is the first one right at 5:30? Or should we wait to
Yeah.
get the meeting rolling and start at 5:30?
No, I think we'll start right at 5:30. We'll open the meeting, and away we go. Yeah, yeah, good. Okay.
We'll probably start, we'll have to do public comment first, so.
Okay, we'll do public
So
comment.
we'll probably
Sorry.
schedule accordingly. We can always do 10 minutes of public comment, interviews, and then follow up
And
at
we
the
can
end of
follow up
public
if
comment if there's
necessary,
more than that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Okay, other
Public comment at 5,
questions?
and if you start at
Yeah.
5:30 too.
Questions, thoughts, comments from the board? I appreciate everybody's pre-work going into this, and I think we're set to go, and look forward to a good meeting on Thursday. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mark, support from Dawn. All in favor?
Yes.
We're adjourned, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening.